Wait, that's your dream game?
That's my dream game. Come on, it's not yours.
WWE No Mercy. Wow.
Of all the
I'm
games to
impressed.
pick, sure.
Yeah.
Best, and I will never pay that price for a AAA game.
The gloves are off. Two people very much on opposite sides of the fence on this one. This is seriously the only show on the internet that gathers three of the best gaming journalists from all over the interwebs to argue about the hot button topics that you need to know the answers to. This week, we're going to be talking about whether or not AAA games should cost you $70 at launch. And joining us on this week's episode is Adam Vjestica, senior games writer at TechRadar, Sam Loveridge, global editor-in-chief at GamesRadar, and Stephen Messner, senior reporter at PC Gamer. So Adam, I'm going to come to you first. You have 20 seconds to lay out your initial position. Should AAA games be $70? Go for it.
AAA games should not be $70, and I will never pay that price for a AAA game. I'm making a very clear line in the sand. I'm not doing it. I'm not going to bow to the pressure of the publishers. There's not been enough of an advancement in longevity, quality, and innovation that I will pay $70.
I love it. I love it. Stating your point, clearly which side of the fence you're on. I'm curious to see. Stephen, where do you lie on this one?
Yeah, games should absolutely be $70. I mean, historically, games have never been as cheap as they are right now. I think they've never provided as much value as they do right now. And I think in addition to that, like the production values for games are sky high. Games are incredible right now. So it only makes sense that we would have to pay a little bit more to enjoy them.
Fantastic stuff. The gloves are off. Two people very much on opposite sides of the fence on this one, and just Sam Loveridge left to go. Sam, your time starts now.
I am joining Stephen on this. Games should absolutely be $70. Like, if you think about the time versus investment that you get from games, a cinema ticket's what, $15 to $20? And I've just played Assassin's Creed Valhalla for 160 hours for the price of $70. So yeah, games are good. We should be paying for the privilege to pay them.
Well, there we go. There we go. Let us know down in the comments below who you agree with here, because I'm genuinely intrigued to see this out. But every just point themselves. I love it so much. Adam, I want to come to you. I thought what Sam said was really interesting, right? About the time you spend at the cinema and the amount you would spend on that sort of process versus the time you are spending in these 100-hour plus games. So I want to know what's sort of the game in most recent memory that you've put the most amount of time into? How much did you spend on it? And do you think it was worth it?
That is a very good question. So probably, yeah, in recent memory, one of the games I've sunk countless hours into was PUBG. And I remember that was a discounted price. I think it was about £30 when it came to early access on Xbox, which was probably a horrendous version to play, admittedly, looking back. But I have sunk hundreds and hundreds of hours into that. Now, if someone was like to me, this game costs you $70, there's no way I could justify that, because PUBG, even after early access, has never been where it has to be. And the reason I've been happy to pay for battle passes and keep the game supported is because of the cheap entry point and because I get so much enjoyment out of it. However, there's so many games now which they have a finite lifespan in terms of how much you play. Not every game is a games as a service or the PUBG or the Vision 2. And $70 just seems so much because not every game's great and our time is precious. And there's so many alternatives out there now, which we'll get to, called Xbox Game Pass, where it makes that monetary value really hard to stomach.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, right, Stephen? This £70 price point is being brought in at a time where actually more price points than ever are being sort of explored. So what do you think about that? And maybe which game on the horizon do you see coming out at $70 do you think will actually be worth it?
Oh, man. Well, okay. Well, here's the thing. Like, there's more games at a greater variety of price points. And to me, that just justifies the $70 price point as being okay, because that just means that we're spending less than ever. With Xbox Game Pass, like, that's an incredible value. So that means that I'm okay if, every once in a while I have to spend $70. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying spending $70 doesn't suck. It absolutely sucks. I'm Canadian, and it's actually now like closer to $90 Canadian. And that really hurts at the end of the day. But yeah, with free-to-play games being so common, with Xbox Games Pass, with PlayStation Now, like, there's so many ways to get free games that the once in a while where I feel like I actually have to pay full price, I feel like I can deal with it if it means buying something that has good quality, that is supporting the industry. The game that I think I'm most excited for Oh boy, that's tough. I'm really excited for Returnal, the new PlayStation exclusive that's coming out at the end of the next month, end of April. I love roguelikes, and that game looks gorgeous. It has a big story. Roguelikes are typically games that you can sink, hundreds of hours into sometimes, and get a lot of fun out of, and the challenges there. So like, I'm already okay with the idea of spending $70 on that game.
That's a really interesting game that you bring up, Returnal. Of course, Destruction AllStars, another PS exclusive that was originally going to be $70 and then ended up coming for free on PlayStation Plus. Sam, I'm curious your thoughts on this one. If Destruction AllStars had come out at $70 when it launched, would you have been happy that that's one of the first games you'd be sinking that $70 into?
I mean, I wouldn't have bought it personally. I've played it a lot because it was free, but I don't, it's not a game that appealed to me in terms of just the gameplay. But I think, just to echo what Stephen said, it's all about the fact that there are so many options. And I feel like there are more sales nowadays for games than ever before. I get an email from GOG.com like at least every other day being like, come and buy some games. I'm like, oh, go on then. But I think it's about like, if there's a game that you're massively passionate about, like, Returnal for Stephen, and for me it's Horizon Forbidden West, I will be there day one for a game that I'm super passionate about and pay that entry price. I think it's about like, if you don't want to play it day one, you can buy it pre-owned, or get it in a sale, or it may even come to PlayStation Plus or Xbox Live. Like, there are ways of getting access to the $70 games without having to buy them day one. So I think, for those people who can afford to pay $70 and want to for that day one experience, then that's good, because we are supporting the industry. And if you look at the rate of inflation, like Stephen was saying, like, the games are not actually as expensive as they should be, even just looking at inflation from like PS1 days to now, whereas like a lot of people make these games and they should be paid for it.
Adam, I've got to come to you. That face said it all.
In a boardroom somewhere, there is men in suits and women rubbing their hands thinking this is exactly what we want to hear. Because my biggest problem with some of these $70 games, like NBA 2K21, which looks fantastic, and I'm not a big basketball fan, but I'd like to play that. These games are still littered with microtransactions and predatory practices that were there as an excuse for the fact that games were $60 and they needed to get more money and people play these for longer. I would be more than happy if they gave a different version. For example, I would pay more to have a version which was just the game without any of that. Give me all the content, let me access it like I used to. And that's where I take a little bit of a offense when I see 2K telling me what I should pay now and why they're desperate for my money, when we all know that GTA 5 still sells 1 million every day, basically. I swear to God. But yeah, there's certain games which I agree, if you're passionate about a game, sure, you might, maybe one day I'll say, yeah, you know what, they've remade WWF No Mercy from the N64. They've remade it, $70. It's the only way I can get it. I'll do it. But until
wait, that's your dream game?
That's my dream game. Come on. it's not yours.
WWE No Mercy. Wow.
Of all the games to pick, sure.
Yeah,
but like,
such a good
I feel
game.
like you're on the cusp there of saying that you would pay $70 for a game that wasn't full of microtransactions. I feel like the AAA games that do have like tons of microtransactions are very few and far between now. Like, it's more like your Fortnites and the games that are free that are using that microtransaction model as their lifeline, whereas like I think sports games are like kind of a separate discussion. They feel like their own like
you did mention
bubble.
Assassin's Creed though.
Those microtransactions.
Assassin's Creed has the
They're
speed of
completely
XP.
optional though.
Yeah,
that's what they always say.
Optional.
Optional.
I have not bought a
extra
single
word.
one, and I've 100%ed that game.
No, and
Here's
that's
the thing.
good for you, but people will buy them, and that's why they're there.
Yeah, but that's the option though, right? Like, that's not a necessary choice that you have to pay those the monies. Like,
I'm going to say something that probably will upset a fair amount of people, especially if they like sports games. Sports games have never been worth the amount of money that it costs to buy them. They are like, you want to talk about like recycled trash. Sports games, like every year, it's just a lineup refresh with the same features, maybe like a brand new game mode. And, they have made some really good innovation, but it feels like it takes about like 5 years for like the NBA 2K franchise to come out with something meaningfully new. So if that's like the threshold, that's the benchmark that you're holding all of the AAA industry to, I feel like that is just the lowest bar that you could find, because at the end of the day, there are tons of great AAA games that come out that can totally justify that $70 price point that aren't littered with microtransactions, or if they have microtransactions like Assassin's Creed. And yes, Odyssey was really bad with the microtransactions, but it's sort of like this ongoing dialogue, right? They overstep the line. There's a lot of blowback from the audience, and then Valhalla came out, and the microtransactions were much more dialed back and optional than they were in Odyssey, which was selling paid or like character boosts, level boosts to speed up the leveling process, which was silly. So like I just don't I think you're so close to joining our side of the fence.
By sports games.
Yeah,
I'm
games.
This is all part of my grand strategy. See, I'm trying to lull you in when really I'm going to double down again and say that no. For example, the $70 thing as well. Let's be honest here. Yes, a couple of publishers have said this is where they're going to go. But really, the only other one in terms of the big three who is going with this is Sony. So Sony's games are $70, while Microsoft says, if you're subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, and if you don't, and you own an Xbox or PC, seriously, all their Xbox Game Studio games launch day one on that service. So you will never have to pay $70. It doesn't matter if it's a sports game or Halo or anything. While if you're a PS5 owner, which 5 people are because there's no stock, you have to pay $70 for those first-party Sony games. And yes, don't get me wrong, Sony first-party games are usually ridiculously good, but are all of them that good? Do you remember the PS4 games? Do you remember like Order 1886?
But Adam, no one's making. I brought that up.
Not full price.
Not full price.
True.
But that's. I feel like the mistake you're making, Adam, is that you're assuming you have to buy every game, and that's just not true. No, you don't.
Everyone knows to be a gamer, you have to buy every single and complete every single game.
That's right. Else you don't get to put a capital G in your gamer title.
Absolutely.
But like, here's the thing: is you don't have to buy every game, and I think definitely going up to the $70 price point does mean that. For a lot of people, especially right now, right? Like we're in a pandemic, people are hurting financially. It's hard times. I think it's totally okay to recognize that people are going to be stingier with their purchases, and people should be stingier with their purchases. We should, I think gaming as an industry definitely has a problem of trying to milk players and exploit players for cash. And I think, it's always important to advocate that people, are stingy, that people really take the time to consider, that people don't buy into the hype, that people don't pre-order. For the love of God, don't pre-order. Yeah. But at the end of the day, you don't have to buy every $70 game. So, the ones that are $70, yeah, it's going to hurt a bit more, and maybe you're going to be a bit more skeptical. But I don't think that flat out means that games shouldn't be $70, that studios shouldn't be, adjusting games for the rate of inflation, that, these massive projects that are taking 2,000 developer person teams to put together shouldn't be, making money in a way that, might. And at the end of the day, I get what you're saying. You're talking about the corporate suits earlier, right? Like, of course, there are going to be studios that are going to look at this. They're going to go, great, this is just going to fatten their bottom line. This is going to be a nice bonus to Bobby Kotick at the end of the year. But like, it also means that there are studios that do treat their employees really well, that do care about labor issues. And I think the $70 price point, it's an opportunity to sort of contribute to a more healthy and sustainable gaming development scene.
And that's what we're here for, right? Like we're here to guide people to the games that are worth investing $70, and maybe those who probably worth waiting for the sales for. Like that's part of our roles as journalists to guide people towards the games that are worth investing the highest price in. Sorry, Matt, I cut you.
No. Looping back to something that Stephen just said there then about sort of studios being able to charge that higher price so they can treat their staff better and sort of improve the production of these games. Sam, I want to loop back to you. Something like Game Pass on the horizon, like you keep saying, you don't have to pay full price for these games because of services like Game Pass. I guess my question is Game Pass sustainable? Do you really think that in the long term, it helps the industry? Do you think that publishers putting their games onto Game Pass is allowing them that freedom to treat their staff better, to have less crunch? Or is it actually doing the complete opposite?
I genuinely don't know. Like, I feel like Game Pass is too good to be true. I feel like someday I'm going to wake up and they're going to go, fools you, is actually £1,000 a month because it's really, really great. Because like they are AAA games arriving on this service day one. What it's like £6 a month, £8 a month. Generally can't remember. There's so many freaking subscriptions coming out of my account now. But it is such good value. Like, I don't understand how a AAA game that would be selling for $70 a copy coming to Game Pass is going to help sustain that studio. Obviously, it helps that a lot of them are owned by Microsoft, and there are 18 million people now subscribed to Game Pass. But would those 18 million play all the games on Game Pass? Would they then have gone on to buy the £70 version? It's a really interesting discussion to have, because I feel like it can't be sustainable, can it? It just feels too good to be true. I don't know what you guys think, but it's just such good value.
Adam, what do you think? Is it sustainable?
I bloody hope so. Am I allowed to curse?
Yeah.
That's not really a curse word, is it?
That's like a mum curse.
I can say what I want, Mum. I'm a grown boy.
My ears, no!
She's got the soap out again. I really hope so. And it's interesting because you do hear from people in the industry that Game Pass does seem to broaden people's taste. It does introduce people to new franchises and series. And one thing I think a lot of people forget with Game Pass is when a game is on Game Pass, it doesn't mean you can't buy that game. In fact, if you subscribe to Game Pass, you actually get 20% off that title before it leaves. You also get 10%, I think it might even be 20%, off the DLC as well. And I know for a fact there's certain games like Sea of Thieves. Now, that game was obviously one of the first games of Microsoft's first party to hit Game Pass on day one. When that game launched, it was a shell. It was just a really cool concept, but there was nothing to do. I was up till 2 a.m. last night. I hope my boss doesn't hear this, playing Sea of Thieves, because that game has evolved so much. And there's no way it would be even on anyone's radar if that was just sold as a hard copy and people had to go out and spend $60 on it. But because it's accessible to everyone, because it can continue to grow, people play it. And there's other games like The Medium I would never have played, Super Lucky's Tale I would never have played. And I think that's the biggest strength of Game Pass is not only do you get this great subscription model and all these games in the first party and you're saving money and it's great for stingy people like me who wear gaming t-shirts and don't buy real clothes. It's more than that. I really do think it broadens everyone's horizons as a gamer. And if you are just a FIFA player or a Madden player or a Call of Duty player, Game Pass does give you that ability to go, I'll try this puzzle game, I'll try this. And then suddenly you've opened up new genres, introduced yourself to new developers, and you never know where it might lead you.
Exactly. And then finishing where it might lead you. Finishing up then, of course, $70 for a game sounds like a lot, but we've had collector's editions of games that have come with all sorts of nonsense that have been well exceeding $100, maybe even $200 for some. Stephen, I want to come to you. Has this been ever something that you've indulged in? Do you have any tchotchkes there with you that I want to see?
No, I hate collector's editions more than anything. Adam, you're talking about publishers milking players with just dumb crap that they don't need. Collector's editions are dumb crap that you do not need. For every one that is actually the statue is artistically made with high quality materials, there are 9 where people pull it out of the box and it is this clump of melted plastic that someone painted on in a factory somewhere. God knows what kind of exploited labor that those knickknacks were made with. Collector's editions are awful. I don't think that it's the answer to anything. Same with the in-game item stuff. I hate that stuff when it's pay $90. Ubisoft is so bad for that too, with The Division, where it has 14 separate editions and each one gets you a different jacket or something stupid. Come on. That stuff is I hate it. I hate it more than anything.
Fantastic stuff. Sam, close us out then. Let's conclude what we've been saying today. Do you think games should cost $70? Do you think eventually they're going to cost more? Or are we all just going to move to these subscription services, paying so much a month for our massive game libraries?
I think games are worth $70. I think they will only get more expensive, but they will be complemented by subscription services and indie games and early access titles. So there is a plethora of ways to people to get access to new games.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you so much for joining me, the three of you, and thank you guys for watching at home. Let us know in the comments down below what you think. I'm really, really intrigued to hear what you have to say about everything that's been raised today. Remember to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, follow if you're watching on Facebook, and give that video a like. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.